Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to TicketsBasket. Today we will continue what we have started with in the previous session, was talking about Azure Blob Storage and implementing the Azure Blob Storage from within our .NET client. So basically, let's have a look here of what we are going to implement exactly. If you have a look, this is our API services that we have, like the user services, the ticket service, events or whatever. And here we will going to create an interface. So our services will be in contact with this interface regardless the implementation. And what we are expecting from the implementation of this interface is basically three things. We need to save a blob, or to save, let's say, a file or attachment, whatever it is, picture or anything. And we need to get a protected URL, and we need to remove a blob. Why we are doing like this? Maybe for unit testing, if you are just want to mock the Azure Blob Storage, this is a case. Another case, if you want to use something greater than storage account, like AWS or whatever it is. Hopefully you are an Azure van, but just in case. So this one will let our services just based on other abstractions and not real implementations. So, and then in turn, this Azure Blob Storage will go ahead and implement the communication with the Azure Storage account or the Azure Blob in the Azure Storage account. So because I'm on Windows, for this session, I will continue using the Azure Storage Explorer and my local emulator on Windows. But if you are following on Mac, what you can do basically just after you have created your Azure Storage account, you can go to Manage Accounts, log in into your own, and then from your subscription, go ahead and pick your storage account. So you can just follow the same. Great. Now, just before we start coding, let's go ahead and just give another example for what we have to do exactly from the Storage Explorer. We are going to simulate what we want to do here exactly, or what we want to do in the code to see it in this UI. Then we will go ahead and start coding. So basically in the previous session, we have created this container called users, and it's not going to be protected. So this is going to be available for public because it will hold the profile pictures of the users. But if we click on the blob container here, I'm going to create a new one, and I will call this one, like for example, CVs. So this one will hold all the attachment of the or the received CVs from the applicants or people. So this data should be protected. So if you right click here and we go to set public access level, as you can see, by default it's set to no public access, so no one could access this one. So this is great. And if we check for the users, okay, manage access policies. Yeah, this one. Basically what I need to do is to make it public read access for containers and blobs. I just need to be able to access that publicly. But for the CVs, it's going to be protected. So let's try to go ahead and upload a file. So let's see what we have. I will click on create a new. I'll call this one like CV1. So hello, this is a cool CV. Okay, great. Now I'll save this. And then I'll go to this one, click on upload the file. Okay, let me choose this one. Go to desktop, and I will choose cv1.txt. So this is great. Right now, let's click on upload. So that's great. Right now we have this one existing here. If we choose this, and then we go to copy URL, and I will go to open this one. Try to open it, and as you can see, I'm going to see this page because basically the resource not found, and because this one is protected. What I need to be able to access this one is to use what is called shared access signature or SAS token. When I append the SAS token for this URL, I'll be able to access this blob maybe for a specific period of time or under a specific policy. And the policy that we are going to do is basically the time expiration. So every URL will be generated for those data will expire after 2 or 3 minutes. So in this case, we are make sure that the user or this one will install this attachment on his device, and then the token will be expired, so it's not shared anymore. So if we go right now to this one, how we are going to do that? basically if we right click, you'll see there is a method here called getSharedAccessSignature. If you click on that, so you see access policy, we haven't defined any access policy here. So the start time is now and it will finish tomorrow. Then okay, that's great, and the access only for read, so I'll click create. Okay, so look at that. Now we have this parameter, the query string, which is the token, or this is the full URL with the token. If I copy that and just paste it here, so as you can see right now I have access to this file. If we try the same URL to try to access the same blob tomorrow, it's not going to be available. So this is basically all the functions that we need to implement within the session. So another thing we need to do is basically just to click delete and being able to delete one of those attachments. So let's go ahead and start implementing this function from our C# code. I'll go to the .services project, and from this one I will create a new folder. You can have a different project for it, but it's okay to have it here because it's just a simple class. So this is the storage, and I will create an interface. Okay. So for the interface, I will call it iStorage Service. Click on add. This is great. Let's mark it as public. So this will do three main things. First one is save a blob. So basically it's going to be task string. It will return the URL of that blob, and it will be called save blob async. String container name, the name of the container, or let's say the folder that we want to put this blob in. And another thing is stream. Or another thing that we can do, which is I think it's going to be better, is to pass iForm file, because basically all the attachments we want to save to blob will come from the client as an iForm file, so we can pass it directly to here. So file. So this is one. Another thing is delete a blob, task string, remove blob async, string container name, string blob name, and the last one is get protected URL, and this one will be string get protected URL for the string blob string container, and for the blob date time expiry date. So this is basically the storage service that we will have. So right now let's go ahead and create the implementation for this for the Azure Blob Storage. So I will call it Azure Blob Storage Service. And then this one will be Azure iStorage Service. Sorry for that. So right now, implement this service. So this is great. Okay. What we need to pass here basically is just one thing. We need to pass, or let's say two things, sorry. We need to pass the base URL of our storage account, and then we need to pass the connection string of our Azure Blob Storage or our Azure Storage account. So to do that, I will go ahead to the infrastructure project, and in the options here, I will add class. I will add here Azure Storage Options, like that, and they are going to be public string storage connection string and public string storage or account URL, sorry, account URL, the base URL. So right now I have those options. What I need to do as well is to go to the appsettings.json and set those values here. So I will go to the appsettings.development.json. Okay, here, because right now I'm in the development machine, and I'm going to set them as well on the appsettings.json, which will work on the production. But later on, we are going to make a session about using the user secrets and Azure Key Vault. So we will migrate all of those secrets from here and put them somewhere else. But for now, I will create an object. I will call it Azure Storage Settings. And they are going to be like as following: storage connection string, and we have here as well storage or account URL, like that. And we need to set the URL here. So basically, we make sure that they are the same name for the options. Okay, so this is great. Now, where can I pick those values? So what you can do is basically go to the storage emulator here, and you can click on the emulator here, or the storage account. I call it emulator. And here you can find something called the primary connection string. I will click on this, copy, and go back to Visual Studio, and just paste it here. Okay, it's a little bit long, but that's great. And we have the account URL. Okay, where can I bring the URL? Sorry for that. It's for, yeah, Azure Storage here. And what we can do is, like, let's click on the blob container. I will choose, like, let's say, the users or whatever, and here you can find the URL. So let me copy this, go back to this one, I will save it here, and then I'll just remove this one. So I have just the base URL. So right now we have full access for the Azure Storage account. Those are the settings required for that. Let's go ahead to the API project right now and basically register those options in the dependency injection container. So I'll go to the extensions, service extension, and at the end here, I will add public static void, add Azure Storage Options, this iService collection, services, and it needs as well configuration as a parameter. This is just great. Now let me go ahead and bring the options from the app settings. And to do that, I'll be able to convert the whole section from the app settings to JSON, because they are the same name properties, and this full one into the Azure Storage Options. And to do so, I can say return services dot add scoped, or yeah, sorry, there is no return. And basically this one, I want to register Azure Storage Options. So SP, and to do that, I'll say configuration dot get section. What is the name of that section? I called it here in the appsettings.json, Azure Storage Settings. So let me go for this one. I'll paste the name here, and then I'll use a function called get, and let's pass the type Azure Storage Options, just like that. So what this one is going to do, basically it will retrieve this object as JSON and then deserialize it into this object or this class, an object of this class, because they are the same properties, so they are going to be bound into each other. So this is great. Right now I have initialized the storage account and we have learned how to use those options. Maybe, yeah, we can get rid of this because it can detect that from inside. So great. Now let me go to startup, and let's say services dot add Azure Storage Options, and we should add the configuration, just like that. That's great, and that's simple. You have learned as well how to use options or the options pattern, so that's great. Now I will go back to the iStorage service and I will inject an instance of that here. So this one will be basically read-only Azure Storage Options. So Azure Storage Options. Great. Now we should go to the services project. I'll right click here, manage NuGet packages, and let's search for Microsoft.Azure.blob. Microsoft.Azure.blob. Sorry, it's Azure.Storage.blobs. Wow, I totally forget that name. Microsoft.Azure, okay. Azure.Storage.blobs. So let's click install. Okay, I accept. Okay, that's great. So here, what we are going to do, you'll have a private, read-only, blob service client, blob service client, just like that. And this one, we will initialize it here in the constructor. So I'll say blob service client equals blob service client dot, or sorry for that, new, and here I should pass the connection string I got used for the old SDK. You pass an Azure Storage account dot parse, and then you pass the connection string. And from this one, we can bring the connection string as following: dot connection string. And here we go. Right now I have the connection string for this one. So I'm somehow ready to go. So let's get started first by the save blob async, which is this one. What can I do right now? First, I need to mark it as async. This is cool. And other thing I have to do is to add string, a new file or file name, the current one, which is file name. And then what I can do as well is to say string extension equals path. Let's add system.io.get extension from the file name. Here we will validate the extension. We will do that in a bit after we make sure that the Azure Blob Storage is just working very fine. So this is the extension, validate the extension, and after that I'll say new file name equals container name, or sorry, before the container name, it's going to be basically the path.get file name without extension, file.file name. I can use this variable dash, and then I will use a GUID or global unique identifier. And at the end, I'm going to concatenate this with the extension. So this is the new name. Why I'm using the global unique identifier? And basically just to make sure, because when you build your app, you have a huge number of users, or even sometimes the same user can upload the same file twice. So this is will lead to some lose of the data, and because the new file will replace the old one. This is why you should use global unique identifier or timestamp at least to prevent this from happening. So I have this. Now what I have to do is I have the new file name and I have the file stream. I can find it here. So what can I do is basically go ahead and upload this file to Azure Storage. So I'll say using var stream equals file dot open read stream. So this one will give me access to the stream of this file. Now var container equals a blob service client dot get container, get the blob container client, like that. So let's pass the blob container name. It is container name, like that. If you to make sure that the container exists, so what you can do is click await container dot create if not exists async. So this is just for the first time if you don't have this container in your Azure Storage account. So it's going to go ahead and create that for you instead of throwing an exception. So it's important to have it here. And right now, we can have an access for blob or our blob. We'll say container.get blob client. Okay, what is the name of the blob? Basically, it's the new file name. So we start from the top, the blob storage, then the container, and right now we are on the level of this blob exactly. And what I'm gonna do is to say await blob.upload async. It needs a stream, so the stream is file, it's the stream here. So basically this is great. Right now, what is the URL? Because this we are expecting a URL from this function, and it is like that. The options.account URL / the container name / the new file name. So look at that. This is very, very simple. Basically, uploading a file to Azure Blob Storage is just those 3 lines. So I think this one is, as I've said, it's very, very simple. Now what can we do is to go ahead and implement the remove blob async and the get protected URL. But I think this is enough for the session, and let's go ahead and get started with the remove blob async in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.